I don't like being around it. I don't like to think that happened in my building where I live.
Now at 11, an alarming discovery has families feeling uneasy in this Silver Spring community. Police finding a woman's decomposed body in an apartment, and investigators think she may have been pregnant.
The gas station where all of this happened remains closed tonight, but right across the street at this apartment complex is where police found the suspect and made that gruesome discovery, leaving residents there in shock.
He also told detectives that he was in a relationship with a female who was pregnant. The female who was found inside of the apartment.
Police say Moore admitted the two had a fight a month ago that led to her death. No one we spoke to noticed anything strange or an odor until police removed the woman's body.
It smelled really bad, but it was really bad.
7 News looked into Moore's criminal record, which includes kidnapping, robbery, and assault charges in Prince George's County, listed as closed cases, and in Montgomery County, gun and drug charges. Residents are concerned about the suspect's background, living so close.
Absolutely, about the life of 2 human beings in here has been taken. This is not a simple issue.
So what happens when love turns deadly? When the person you trust most becomes your worst nightmare? Denise Middleton thought she knew, but she had no idea how far Tory Moore would go. 7 shots. That's what it took to destroy not just 1 life, but 2. And that was just the beginning. But listen, what came after those gunshots? That's when things got really twisted. See, most people would panic, call 911, try to cover it up somehow. Not Tory. This man kept Denise's body in their apartment for weeks, living with death like it was normal. Like, make it make sense. And if you think that's where this story ends, oh honey, you got another thing coming. 2 months later, this same man walked into a gas station over an iced tea, y'all, and took another life. 61-year-old Ilu Wandamu, just trying to do his job, became victim number 3 in Tory's reign of terror. This is the story of Denise Middleton, her unborn baby boy Ezekiel, and Ilu Wandamu. 3 lives stolen by a man whose darkness was hiding in plain sight. And let me tell you something, this case is going to show you exactly why we don't ignore those red flags. You're watching Shadow Crimes TV, where we bring true crime and domestic violence stories out of the shadows. Subscribe now and join us daily as we uncover the cases that demand to be heard. Don't just watch, be part of the conversation. Now let me tell you about Denise Middleton. 26 years old, born and raised in Brooklyn, but made Silver Spring, Maryland, her home. And when I say this girl had personality, I mean she lit up every room she walked into. Her family remembers her as funny, witty, you know, that person who always had the perfect comeback. That was Denise. She was passionate about fashion, hair, makeup, expressing herself through her style, you know. But beyond all that outer beauty, Denise had a heart of gold, always lifting people up, giving compliments, encouraging folks when they needed it most. That's the type of person she was. And at the time of her death, girl was nearly 9 months pregnant. 9 months, y'all. She was right there at the finish line, ready to meet her baby boy. Had already picked out his name, Ezekiel. Used to talk about that name with so much love and hope for the future. Her cousin Temperance painted this picture of a woman who was just glowing with excitement. Denise wasn't just a cousin, she was like a sister, and her loss left a void impossible to fill. Those were her words. You can hear the pain in that, can't you? So Denise had everything to live for, a baby on the way, dreams of motherhood, a whole future ahead of her. But behind closed doors, a completely different story was playing out. Enter Tory Moore, 31 years old, and let me just say this right off the bat, this man was not it, not even close. He came with a whole rap sheet, multiple felony convictions, and get this, messed up, a documented history of putting his hands on women. We're talking domestic violence charges, y'all. And here's the kicker. Years before, back in Norfolk, Virginia, he had already been charged with aggravated assault. Against who? Against Denise herself. The same Denise who was now carrying his child. Like the red flags were literally flashing neon, but sometimes love makes us blind to what's right in front of us. Despite all the warnings from family and friends, and I know they tried to tell her, Denise chose to give Tory another chance. And before y'all start judging, let me remind you that this decision is heartbreakingly common among women caught up in abusive situations. The cycle of abuse is real, and it's designed to keep victims trapped. Their relationship was this toxic mix of love, fear, and control. You'd have moments where things seemed okay, maybe even sweet, but then that darkness would creep back in. Moore's possessiveness kept getting worse, controlling every aspect of Denise's life. And there's this elevator footage, the last time Denise was ever seen alive. When you watch it, you can see exactly how dysfunctional their dynamic was. Tory literally prevented another person from getting on that elevator with them. Think about that. He couldn't even handle a stranger being in an elevator with his pregnant girlfriend. The control was that deep. Now, the day Denise's life was taken started like so many others, but behind those apartment doors, tension was building to a breaking point. According to police reports, what began as an argument between them quickly escalated into something much darker. Tory, overwhelmed by rage he couldn't contain, put his hands on Denise. And we're not talking about a push or a slap. NITA investigators say he choked her during this fight. Choked a woman who was 9 months pregnant with his child. Let that sink in for a minute. But choking her wasn't enough for Tory. The violence didn't stop there. In what can only be described as an act of pure evil, this man pulled out a handgun and shot Denise 7 times. 7 times, y'all. Each shot didn't just end Denise's life, it also killed their unborn son, Ezekiel. Think about Denise in those final moments, pregnant, defenseless, probably wondering how the man she loved could do this to her. And think about little Ezekiel, who never got the chance to take his first breath. Never got to meet his mama who had picked out his name with so much love. But here's where this case takes a turn that even seasoned investigators couldn't believe. Most people who commit murder try to hide the evidence, right? They panic, they run, they try to cover their tracks. Not Tory Moore. This man kept Denise's body in their apartment and just lived with it for nearly 2 months. 2 months, y'all, living with his pregnant girlfriend's decomposing body like it was normal. Meanwhile, neighbors had no idea what was happening just feet away from them. No complaints about strange smells. No suspicious noises reported. The silence around that apartment was deafening. And while Denise's body lay hidden in that apartment, while her family was probably wondering why she wasn't returning calls, wondering where she was, like he didn't just destroy 2 lives and leave a family wondering where their loved one had gone. Moving on to what happened next, because this story is about to get even more disturbing. Just weeks after hiding Denise's lifeless body away in his apartment, Tory Moore stepped back into the world like nothing happened. And honey, what he did next is going to show you just how dangerous this man really was. It was late afternoon at the Shell Dash Inconvenience store on New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. Behind the cash register was 61-year-old Aelu Wandamu, working his usual shift. Co-workers and neighbors knew him as a hard-working, kind-hearted man. The type of person who minded his business and just tried to make an honest living. But this day was about to end in tragedy. So picture this. Nice surveillance footage shows Moore walking into the store like any regular customer. Casual as you please. He goes to the cooler, grabs a bottle of iced tea and heads to the counter to pay. Should have been simple, right? A 2-minute transaction and everybody goes about their day. But oh no, not with Tory Moore. A verbal disagreement breaks out between him and Wandamu. Now we don't know exactly what words were exchanged, but tensions escalated real quick. And when I say quick, I mean this situation went from 0 to deadly in a matter of seconds. Moore starts throwing items from the counter, creating chaos in that small store, like he's literally having a tantrum over whatever set him off. In response, Wandamu grabs a metal pole from behind the register, probably trying to protect himself, right? The two men are now facing off, and you can feel how volatile this situation is getting. Instead of backing down or walking away like any normal person would do, Moore steps back briefly, and then this is where it gets real. He pulls a silver handgun from his vest pocket. A gun, y'all. Over what? An iced tea and whatever words were said. The cold steel of that weapon transformed what could have been just a heated argument into a deadly encounter. Moore fired the first shot at point-blank range, hitting Wandamu right in the chest. The clerk tried to protect himself, but Moore? This man showed absolutely no mercy. He reached over that counter and fired multiple shots into Wandamu's body, the sound of gunfire echoing through that store while terrified customers ducked for cover, probably praying they wouldn't be next. And Wandamu, he collapsed behind that counter, his life stolen over something so senseless. But get this, in the middle of all this chaos, after taking another human being's life, Moore grabbed that bottle of iced tea he originally came for and walked out like he just bought a pack of gum, fled the scene and disappeared into the streets of Silver Spring, leaving behind a man who would never go home to his family again.
And developing now at 11, murdered on the job. A Silver Spring gas station clerk killed while trying to fight off a man in this store. And right now the search is intensifying for the killer. 7 News' Kim Jackson has been tracking this case since it first broke. She is live at the scene tonight. And Kim, do police have any surveillance video that could help them catch this gunman?
Well, they're hoping so. They were checking that out a little bit earlier. At this point, though, Carl, police are no longer here on scene, and the gas station behind me remains closed. You can see there's a yellow tape here. There's fencing to keep people out. At this point, police only telling us that it was an adult male that walked into this gas station and shot and killed the clerk that was working.
The senseless killing of a man who was literally just trying to do his job stunned the entire community. Neighbors described Wandamu as a gentle soul, a provider who never deserved such a violent end. But for Tory Moore, this was just Tuesday. Now, police moved fast after that gas station shooting. They had eyewitnesses, clear video footage showing the whole brutal confrontation. It didn't take long for them to identify Moore as their suspect. But what they didn't know yet was that this same man was also connected to something much more horrific. In the early hours following the shooting, Montgomery County SWAT teams got their hands on a no-knock search warrant. They were about to descend on Tory Damian Moore's apartment at the Enclave Apartments, this quiet complex in Silver Spring that was about to become the center of an investigation nobody was prepared for. When those officers forced entry into that apartment, what they found inside stunned even the most seasoned detectives. And these are people who've seen everything, y'all. But this was something else. Lying on the floor of that dimly lit apartment was the decomposed body of a woman. Denise Middleton, nearly 9 months pregnant, her lifeless form showing the cruel marks of violence that had taken her life weeks ago. The discovery sent shockwaves through that neighborhood. Residents who once felt safe in those apartments suddenly had to grapple with the fact that they'd been living just feet away from this horror. Many of them started thinking back, wondering how no one reported suspicious smells or unusual activity. How had such horror been concealed for so long, right under their noses? And here's what made this tragedy even more heartbreaking. Authorities confirmed that Denise's unborn child, Ezekiel, was viable. That baby would have survived if he'd been delivered at term. We're talking about a life that was full of promise, extinguished before it even had a chance to begin. Meanwhile, Moore was taken into custody without any resistance, handcuffed and silent. The man who had terrorized this community was finally behind bars. But the damage was already done. Free lives lost, families destroyed, a community left trying to make sense of how this could happen. Police spokespersons talked about the emotional toll this case was taking on everyone involved.
A man has been arrested and charged in the shooting death of a gas station employee in Silver Spring.
While serving that warrant, police say they made a gruesome discovery inside his apartment that's across the street from that gas station. 7 News' Heather Graff is live at police headquarters in Gaithersburg with the new developments from police. Heather.
Well, Michelle and Allison, really stunning developments happening in just the last hour here in Montgomery County, because as you mentioned, when officers went to the suspect's apartment home in the White Oak area of Silver Spring, when they went inside serving that search warrant, they found a woman's body inside the apartment in advanced stages of decomposition. And they also believe Moore had been living there alongside those decaying remains for several weeks.
He also told detectives that he was in a relationship with a female who was pregnant. The female who was found inside of the apartment, and that there had been some type of fight between the two about 1 month prior to that led to the victim becoming deceased.
All right, a lot to unpack there. Skytrack 7 just flew over the Enclave Apartments, again, right across from that gas station where this woman's body was found. Police say they are now awaiting the results of an autopsy to confirm her identity and whether she was, in fact, pregnant. At that point, police then would determine what additional charges should be filed in connection to her death.
We're talking about a story marked by brutal violence and heartbreaking loss that touched everyone who worked on it. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner later revealed the brutal reality behind Denise's death. The autopsy confirmed she had been shot 7 times, a merciless attack that ended not only her life but also that of her unborn son. For Denise's family, this discovery was devastating beyond words. They struggled to understand how no one noticed the signs, how a young woman who was full of life just weeks before had been gone so long without anyone knowing. Her cousin Temperance spoke about heartbreak and disbelief. That's hard to even imagine. It was as if their pain was trapped in those apartment walls, hidden away from the world, one family member said. The silence, the missed opportunity to save Denise, it became a painful reminder that sometimes the most horrific things happen right next to us, and we never even know. What made this case groundbreaking was the legal recognition of Ezekiel as a separate victim. For the first time in Montgomery County history, a fetus was charged as a viable victim in a homicide case. This underscored not just the profound loss, but also the county's evolving stance on fetal homicide laws. Tory Moore was looking at a mountain of charges. He was indicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for Denise, 1 for her unborn child Ezekiel, and 1 for the gas station clerk, 61-year-old Iluwan Dimu. Plus, he got hit with charges for using a firearm during violent crimes, reflecting just how premeditated and severe his actions were. But then came the legal drama. After his arrest, Moore's defense team started playing the mental health card. They claimed he suffered from mental health issues severe enough that he couldn't even participate in his own defense. Like they were trying to say this man was too mentally ill to understand what was happening in court. A judge had to determine whether Moore was mentally competent to stand trial. Psychiatrists examined him while prosecutors argued that despite whatever issues he might have had, he fully understood the charges against him and how the courtroom process worked. Initially, a judge ruled that Moore was incompetent to stand trial and should be admitted to a medical facility. But hold up, Mike, the prosecution wasn't having that. They challenged that ruling and requested new health practitioners to examine him again and present their findings to a different judge. After more thorough evaluations and hearings, the second judge ruled that Moore was indeed competent to stand trial. He was capable of understanding the proceedings and helping with his own defense. So we were back on track for justice.
Tonight, we are learning new details about the pregnant woman found dead inside a Montgomery County apartment. The disturbing discovery came hours after a deadly shooting at a gas station right across the street. Today, a judge ruled the man who police say is responsible is not competent to stand trial, at least not now. News 4's Walter Morris is in White Oak tonight with the update.
Currently not competent to stand trial and was also a danger to himself or to others if he was released into the community.
Days after the shooting death of a convenience store clerk and the discovery of a pregnant woman's decomposing body inside of the accused gunman's apartment, a Montgomery County judge ruling Tory Moore is not competent to stand trial, with another hearing on that matter set for next year.
Mr. Moore will be represented by the Office of the Public Defender in Montgomery County.
State's Attorney John McCarthy briefing reporters Monday moments after the hearing.
Throughout all these legal delays and proceedings, Denise's family had to sit and wait. Every postponement was another painful reminder that justice wasn't within reach yet, prolonging the agony of knowing the man responsible for their loss was still alive while their loved ones were gone forever. Their hope rested on the trial's outcome, finally getting the chance to hold Moore accountable and maybe, just maybe, begin the long process of healing from the devastation he left behind. Anyways, that brings us to the trial itself, and honey, that's where this whole story reaches its climax. The trial of Tory Damian Moore was nothing short of a journey through some of the most painful truths you could imagine. Prosecutors came with receipts, honey. They laid out a case so airtight, so detailed, that there was really no wiggle room for doubt about this man's guilt. We're talking forensic findings, surveillance footage that showed everything, eyewitness testimonies that painted a clear picture of exactly what happened. But the most powerful moments, that's when Denise's family took the stand. Picture this breath, family members standing up in that courtroom, voices trembling as they talked about Denise's warmth, her dreams, and the cruel betrayal that shattered their entire world. Police officers and experts detailed the pattern of violence and the devastating aftermath of Moore's actions. Every piece of evidence pointed to one conclusion, and throughout all of this, Moore sat there showing absolutely no remorse. His cold demeanor in that courtroom just added to the pain felt by everyone seeking justice. As more disturbing details about his behavior and these horrific crimes came out, you could see the impact it was having on everyone present. But let me tell you what really got to people. Prosecutors revealed that after Denise's murder, Moore had been doing internet searches. And what was he looking up? How long does it take before a body begins to smell? And how do you cover up and defend yourself for murder charges? This man was literally Googling how to get away with what he'd done. He was Googling different things to set up a defense, the prosecutor said, like he wasn't panicking or feeling guilty. He was strategizing. Make it make sense. After all the evidence was presented, after all the testimonies were heard, the jury went to deliberate, and when they came back, unanimous verdict. guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. Guilty for Denise Middleton, guilty for her unborn son Ezekiel, and guilty for gas station clerk Ilu Wandamu.
The Maryland man convicted of murdering his pregnant girlfriend, their unborn child, and a convenience store clerk will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Today, a Montgomery County Circuit Court judge sentenced Tory Moore to 3 consecutive life sentences. It is the first time someone in the county was convicted of killing a viable fetus. News 4's Walter Morris has the story. A warning, the details are disturbing.
More than 2 years after a violent killing in this Montgomery County convenience store and a disturbing discovery of a pregnant woman's decomposing corpse across the street, the man convicted of the crimes, Tory Moore, learning his fate.
He was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, and Judge McGuckian gave him a sentence of life for each of the 3 murders.
Joined by the victim's family, State's Attorney John McCarthy applauding the judge's sentence, saying this is the first time someone has been convicted of killing a viable fetus in Montgomery County. Prosecutors say there was a history of domestic violence.
The child turned out to be the defendant's child.
The state's attorney also showing this body camera video of Moore's arrest. They say after Middleton's murder, he left town for weeks and came back, even looking up ways to cover up his crime.
He did computer searches, both on his phone and other, to find out about, well, how long does it take before a body begins to smell? How do you cover up and defend yourself for murder charges? He was Googling different things to set up a defense.
Prosecutors say Moore stayed quiet during his sentencing, offering no explanation for the violent crimes.
I would have liked to hear him why, or why couldn't he call me, because he had my number. But, you know, that's something that he kept to himself.
As that gavel fell, marking the end of this legal chapter, the courtroom held its breath. Justice had been served, but for those left behind, the real work of healing was just beginning. So here we are, at the end of this heartbreaking story, and I need y'all to really hear what I'm about to say. Denise Middleton's story isn't just about one woman's tragic death. It's a reminder of the devastating toll that domestic violence and gun violence take on families and entire communities every single day. Her life was full of hope, love, and dreams for the future. She was about to become a mother, about to hold little Ezekiel in her arms. All of that was cruelly cut short by a man who was supposed to love and protect her. And let's not forget Ilu Wandamu, a gentle, hard-working man whose life was stolen in what can only be described as a senseless act of violence. He was just trying to do his job, trying to make an honest living, and he became another casualty of Tory Moore's rage. But here's the thing that really gets to me. These stories aren't isolated incidents. Denise, Ezekiel, and Ilu represent countless others whose pain often goes unseen until tragedy strikes. How many more women are out there right now, living with men who show the same warning signs Moore showed? How many more families are going to get that devastating phone call? This case is a call to all of us to do better, to raise awareness about domestic violence, to intervene when we see signs of abuse, and to support victims before it's too late. Because those red flags that Denise's family and friends saw, they were real and they were loud. Understanding the warning signs of domestic violence can literally save lives. We're talking about things like excessive jealousy, controlling behavior, isolating victims from their support systems, and escalating violence. These aren't just relationship problems, they're dangerous patterns that can turn deadly. So let me ask y'all this. How many more lives have to be lost before we choose to act? Before we stand up, speak out, and make a real difference in our communities? Because staying silent isn't protecting anyone. Let Denise and Ezekiel's memory be a beacon for change. Let's honor them by making sure no one else has to suffer in silence like Denise did. Let's make sure that when someone reaches out for help, when someone shows us those warning signs, we're ready to act. Thanks for watching Shadowed Crimes TV. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about how we can do better as a community. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We bring you true crime stories daily, covering cases you know and many you don't. But more than that, we're here to shine a light on shadowed stories that need to be heard, because every victim deserves to have their story told.